We will now call the legislating committee meeting to order. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd. Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
30 to 40%. So looking.
We're going this way, right?
Nope, present.
Know about.
Somebody needs to mute.
Alderwoman Martin.
Present.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Chairman Vollmer.
Present.
President Reed. Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Oh.
Boyd.
She's walking.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Yes, ma'am, Alderwoman Boyd this time.
Present.
12 present, you have quorum.
Thank you, Sharita. With that, we'll move, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from October 27th, 2021.
Move to approve minutes October 22nd,
27th.
27th,
Last Wednesday.
27th, 2021.
Yes. Okay. A second?
I'll
Sorry,
second.
everyone. All right.
I'll second it.
From the 23rd, seconded. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Chairman Vollmer.
Aye.
Okay, well, I will be on the meeting.
Please mute people.
12 aye votes.
That your vote, the ayes have it. We have approved the minutes from October 27th, 2021. We will hold excuse Alderman until the end of the meeting. With that, we'll continue with Board Bill 101. If you look in your drive, I see the portal's working. I believe we have around 40 some odd, 44 comments on the portal already. I hope everyone gets a chance to read through those, especially before tomorrow's and Wednesday's public hearings. And then President Reed will be with us. He's at Ms. Culpepper's, I believe, the repast currently. He's going to join us right around 10:30. So we're going to start today with a personnel subcommittee. Alderman Navarro, Martin, and Davis. I believe Alderman Navarro, you'll be handling it with their help. So please proceed.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do have a few slides, but first I'll just, before I jump into those, just remind everybody that what we've been looking at is how we build capacity at the board so our legislative body can function effectively, equitably, and efficiently when we reduce from 28 to 14. And, you know, we're a city that's lost population. We have disparity challenges. And so how do we look to reverse those trends, and looking at how we can strengthen this body, this legislative body, so that it can be able to put forth policy measures that are going to reverse some of these trends is extremely important. So we have been looking at other cities, and there are two big pieces of this. The role of Alderman, one, you know, we have a legislative role, obviously, drafting legislation. There's the technical component of that. There's the community outreach, stakeholder engagement piece of that. I mean, we have one attorney at the entire board for all of us to call on. We do not have legislative staff or aides or analysts. And many of you who have worked with the Board of Aldermen know know that we often rely on, whether it's different, nonprofit groups, advocacy groups, to help do some of that community outreach, and to do some of the legal drafting. And so figuring out how we can build that capacity internally is part of what we've looked at, as well as there's the constituent services piece of our job. And that's attending all the various neighborhood meetings, block meet, not just big neighborhoods, but I know a lot of us go to individual block meetings as well. There are special taxing districts that meet every single month. And we're expected to be at those, and we go to as many of those as we possibly can and engage and follow up. Each one of those meetings, it's not just the hour or two that you're there, but it's all of the follow up and preparation for those meetings as well. And then with our ward capital budgets, that keeps us engaged in a lot of the day-to-day of actual city functions and city departments. So whether that's paving streets, planting trees, replacing dumpsters and lights, just want to kind of give folks an idea of what the role of alderperson looks like right now, because it's critical that we think about that when we go from 28 to 14. And in many ways, this position is treated as a part-time job in terms of the salary, meaning that many of the alderpersons on this board may have part-time or full-time jobs, but we all know that the city has full-time issues that we need to deal with. So taking all of that into consideration, and the fact that many of us are on call 24/7, because we are the first line of contact for a lot of folks. We have a great CSB system, but when that gets overwhelmed or when people aren't able to get a response, the way our system works is that you call the alderperson. And so our current way of doing things presents challenges when we go from 28 to 14 wards. And we know the voter representation issues are part of this discussion around the new map, but no map will address our capacity problems here. So, many of us would say that the lack of staff makes it already difficult to do our jobs with 28 people, do it as well as we would like, I would say, let alone when the wards are twice as large. That means we're gonna have double the meetings to go to, double constituent requests and complaints that are coming in, double the legislative workload. So, we're gonna have to take a look at these various committees and assignments, and all of those things. And to the extent that some of us are specialized in certain areas, we're gonna need to be specialized in twice as many areas. So as I said, our city has real challenges, and we need a legislative body to be able to craft sound policy decisions to address those. And that means looking at the tools for research and analysis, community engagement, technical drafting, legal review, all things that most other cities of our size already have. So we also need to make sure that our board reflects the diversity of our city. And that means making this a position that is available and accessible to anyone who meets the basic qualifications of alderperson. So you shouldn't have to be independently wealthy. You shouldn't have to be retired on a really great pension or be dependent on a partner's salary in order to be an alderperson. So those are some of the things that we've put into all of this. And I will definitely let my committee members jump in as well, but I thought first I would go through some slides that show the data that we've collected in terms of looking at peer cities. So I will just, if my co-subcommittee members would like to add anything else to that intro, just raise your hand or jump in.
I'm just going to say briefly that I am in concurrence with everything that you said. We have worked together on this, and it's amazing how when we looked at this 12 years ago, we're in worse shape than we were then when we talked about reducing the Board of Aldermen. Our comparison in salaries, benefits, and assistance with staff is deplorable compared to other governing bodies. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Alderwoman Martin, just come off mute if you wanted to jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to start sharing my screen here. All right, can you all see that? Oh, I realize this says draft. I was working on it up until this meeting started. Let me go to, there we go. Okay. So peer cities, what we looked at, so one, we worked with the personnel department. They did some research for us. There's also a lot of information available online. I would have liked to have been able to do more interviews with council members across the country in similar cities, but we've been a little limited in that, but we do have a lot of great data here. So one, you can look at population, look at number of representatives per capita representation. So, for example, right now we represent about 11,000 some constituents, and that will go up to about 21,500 when we do the redistricting. We also looked primarily at cities, and the way they're described as a strong mayor city, which we often think about how we have a mayor and a board of E&A, but really these are cities where there is no city manager. So the mayor is essentially in charge of all the various city departments, which is similar to St. Louis in that way. And then other considerations, looking at a city's growth rate, median income, geographic size, city, and do they have a city county government style? There may be cities that have similar population, but if the median income is much higher, they may not be as dependent on, aldermen for some of the jobs and responsibilities that we have here. And same thing, geographic size, just depending on what that looks like. So one of the things that the personnel department, when they were looking at this and crunching the numbers they had, they said the size of a city has a positive but a weak correlation to the salary of elected representatives. And again, that goes back to the fact that there are no two cities that are exactly alike. And so it's hard to find a real strong correlation here. Also, the ratio of elected representatives to the number of citizens, while it's a positive correlation, it's also pretty weak. So I'm going to show you next. So these are 6 cities that we pulled out that were similar to St. Louis in various ways. And one thing I want to point out here is that one, this is 2020 population numbers is what I tried to grab for each of these. The salary data is the most recent data on salary. And then when we get to staffing too, that you'll see that we could get, but these things change. City government websites don't always get updated immediately when there are changes. So if you see anything in here that doesn't match up with your current understanding of how a particular city works, let me know, because I'm happy to go in and do some more research and update this. But this is based on the data that we were able to find. I also want to point out that the per capita representation, in some cases, the number of representatives is a mix of at large and in district. And just to keep the chart clean, I didn't separate that out, but the per capita representation is based on the number of in district representatives. So if, for example, Kansas City has 12, their board is 13 because the mayor serves as the 13th, but of those 12, there are 6 districts. So there are 6 in district and 6 at large. So that number represents the representation of those in district representations. So we looked at New Orleans, and these are they ended up just kind of in order of the top salary to the lowest, which you can see there is St. Louis, but the population ranges in here kind of from around 300,000 and up. The number of reps really varies from 9 to up to 26 in Louisville. And Louisville has a city county style government as well, which is part of the reason for their high number. So you're welcome to kind of take a look at this. The per capita representation really varies. I have got when St. Louis goes down to 14, from 21,000, and then New Orleans up to about 77,000 there, but we do have some close numbers there. Cleveland, right around 21,000, Louisville around 24,000 per capita representation. And then you can see those salaries. So everything from 93,000 in New Orleans, down to 48,000 in Louisville. And again, and Louisville has a city county, like I said, style of government, which means their city services are organized differently than ours. They have, they've combined the capacity of both their city and county to be able to staff their departments and that sort of thing. So there's definitely a difference there. I do have before I go to the next slide, which shows just some other cities that I think will be of interest, but we didn't include them kind of in the peer cities. So just want to see, Chairman, do you want me to just go through all the slides and then go back, or do you want me to stop and see if there are questions on this?
No, we can peer through. If anyone has questions, please make notes and we'll take it at the end.
Okay, great. So this again is kind of a cohort of peer cities like I said, based on those various factors that we put together, and just wanted to see where does St. Louis kind of plot out here when it comes to aldermanic salary. The next slide is just some additional cities. Whenever I have conversations with folks, these are cities that come up for one reason or another. You know, Atlanta is a city that we're often compared to because, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we were looking very similar. They've experienced a lot of growth. Chicago has, even though it's much larger than we are, it's another Midwestern city, and they have a similar style of government in that their alderpersons are engaged at the, you know, at the neighborhood level, very similarly to how we are. Lexington, the population and representation looks similar. They've got a strong mayor. They do have a city-county combined government, an urban county form of government. So in that respect, again, they've pooled their resources to really beef up their city services. In Minneapolis, similar numbers again to us. They do have a city coordinator, which operates, which my understanding is very similar to a city manager. So that's part of the reason they're not on the other list. They do have that support. Despite that, they still have a six-figure salary. Nashville, again, a city-county situation you've got there. They also have a mayor and a vice mayor. So again, a lot of support when it comes to the city services, constituent services point of view there. And then I included Newark just because the, you know, our population, number of reps per capita, you know, all of that was just pretty closely aligned, but those are just some of the other cities that stuck out that we thought people might want to see in terms of comparison. And then we looked at staffing. So on the left here, and I did this based on our, I think looking at our most recent budget. So the current St. Louis staffing, 7 executive secretaries, and these are staff that are for the board. So I think that's one thing to point out. We as a board vote on staffing. We have a personnel committee. So there are 7 executive secretaries that are assigned to alderpersons, and those can change year to year as new people come on. We go through seniority, and those assistants may get reassigned or moved around. 1 administrative assistant, 1 receptionist, 1 attorney, chief aldermanic clerk, and assistant clerk. So we have 12, if I did my math right, full-time staff for 28 and eventually 14 alderpersons. None of those folks report directly to any one alderperson. And then we do have an expense account, which we can use for travel, conference fees, if we do mailings, meeting expenses, any of those costs that come along with doing the job. So compared to Kansas City, for example, in Kansas City, even though they do have a city manager, they have at-large reps, and their population is larger than ours at the city level. So in some respects, they wouldn't necessarily fit as a peer city, but because they are in our state, and they face a lot of the same challenges we do, it seems like that is one comparison that is often pulled out, and I think is relevant. So one, they have 12 council members. They each have a full-time legislative aide. In addition, they have 2 additional full-time council assistants, personnel. And then they also have a paid internship program that council members can take advantage of. So that comes down to 14 staff for 12 council members. And then in addition to that, I did see they have a city manager designee. And so this is somebody who's just dedicated to alderpersons, to the council members, to their offices, to interact with the city manager and all of those city departments, which kind of sounds like heaven. Because I know all of us are constantly on the phone, and we've got some great liaisons in the different departments. But each one of them must feel like they have 29, bosses calling them all the time. So that's just additional support. And then they have a $10,000 office budget for each council member, which goes for equipment and supplies, software, anything, travel. A lot of this does not include specific travel and conference reimbursements, but other sorts of things. I'm sure we could get a long list from them, but that is how we compare to Kansas City. So Cleveland and Pittsburgh are the next 2 that we really honed in on because they seemed similar population-wise, similar kind of demographic changes that are happening there. So Cleveland has staffing, so they have 17 members. and they each have an executive assistant. In addition to that, their council is staffed by the receptionist, a deputy clerk, executive assistant to the clerk. So that's, similar to us. But then in addition to that, they have 3 full-time people who are working on research and policy. They have 2 attorneys and 1 archivist. The second column is still the city of Cleveland staff. This is not a second city. This is for their board of aldermen. This is not for the city, or not the board of aldermen, but for their city council. This is for their city council. Chief of communications, a director of media relations, and a communications graphic designer. Those are 3 different positions. I just was running out of room for bullet points. Chief financial officer, a financial assistant, an HR manager, an IT administrator, 2 legislative committee clerks, a chief legislative secretary, receptionist, and legislative assistant. And these are not just positions on the books. I went to the website and they're names of individual people, all different, with email addresses and phone numbers for all of these positions to staff those 17 people. And just kind of as a reminder, I was going to say I could go back and look at the population in Cleveland, just as a reminder. So their population was around 390. That's actually their 2010 number. I've got the 2020 number on the slide, and they've got 17 reps, and their salary is around 88,000, and they have all of this support. So you got to feel good being a citizen in Cleveland today. All right, and then Pittsburgh. This was the last one I was going to share. So they have 9 members, 9 chiefs. So each member has a chief of staff and an executive assistant. And then they also proposed budget for each office. This does not include the council members. But for 2022, that's $170,000. So my impression is that's the budget that has been allocated to them to hire their staff and then whatever other office needs they have. So they have 18 full-time staff for 9 members. In addition to that, they have a separate budget for their city clerks, the city clerk's office. So this is where their clerk, they have an assistant clerk, 5 deputy clerks. I'm sure our clerk is just looking at this, his jaws dropping. Wouldn't it be great? An archivist. They have an equity, diversity, and inclusion policy analyst, budget director, budget manager. This is separate from the city's office of, there's the city OMB. There's a whole nother budget director for the city. This is just for their council. Budget accounts manager, internal accounts monitor, and a records management monitor. So I just thought this was kind of good food for thought in terms of thinking about how we're going from 28 to 14 and what it means to be a legislator in the city of St. Louis and how we best serve our residents, our constituents as a legislative body, knowing all of the things that are on our plates. So maybe I'll just keep this up here for a minute in case anybody has questions and wants to go back, but that's what I wanted to share with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alderwoman Davis or Alderman Martin, have anything to add before we open up to questions?
I just wanted to reiterate that currently alderpersons here in the city of St. Louis, we are identified as part-time employees, part-time volunteers. And so a lot of the benefits that are given to a regular city employee, we do not get. We're not full pension employees for the city. There are reasons why years ago when this was all established, everyone who was an alderperson was a property business owner. And that's who pretty much ran the city. Well, we've evolved. And I think we're really looking to deal with the reality of life and put a support system in here that can really benefit our citizens a lot more. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Martin, before we open it up, anything else? Okay, if not, we'll start with Mr. Vice Chair, Alderman Bard. You have
Alderwoman Davis.
oh,
Can you hear
Alderman
me?
Martin. Alderman Martin, you're kind of breaking up.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
Thank you. I just want to add that I like the way that Alderwoman Davis put that, the reality of life. We have evolved. I don't think that folks should be penalized for the experience they bring, whether it's being a parent or a business owner or any other type of occupation because everyone brings something unique to the board. And I agree that we need a lot more support staff. We're running things the way it was, a century ago. And the reality of life is a great way to put it. And I want to thank Alderwoman Navarro for putting so much time and effort into this. I think this is really eye-opening. And that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Vice Chair, Alderman Barr, any questions or comments of the committee? Subcommittee?
Well, first of all, my comments, kudos to Alderwoman Navarro for all her hard work, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Martin. A lot of great information. I hope it's a big eye opener for our citizens in the city of St. Louis. I'd like to also echo something Alderwoman Davis said when it started many moons ago, how aldermen were pretty much part-time. But we have transitioned over time into a system whereby the alderman is kind of like the first person you call before you call Citizen Service Bureau, CSB, or even the mayor. And we're not even responsible for delivering city service. We are here to, break down barriers so that our constituents can receive better city services. But it's almost like there's a burden upon us that we are directly responsible for the potholes and all of that. And so that's how we kind of evolved to get to where we are. So anyone who dare thinks that we are part-time is sadly mistaken, even if some of us have full-time jobs. As Alderwoman Navarro said, we're 24/7. It reminds me of being in the military. You're always on call. So again, thank you for the great work. I look forward to the rest of the discussion.
All right, Alderman Vaccaro.
Yes, more of a comment than anything. I don't disagree with a lot of what was said. I will say that this was sold to the people as a money-saving endeavor, and people voted on it because we're going to save all this money. And we're talking about now larger salaries and staffs. And I am one of the fortunate ones. I do it as a full-time job because I don't have another job that I have to deal with. But I do caution that, if we jump to these high salaries and staffs, I guess somebody would have to explain to me how that's going to better serve our constituents. It's just a statement. It doesn't mean anything. I appreciate all the work that went into it. And certainly I would like 100,000 or 200 or 500. But, the reality is, even doing it full time, like I've been, I felt like I've been fairly compensated. I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably one of more of the fortunate ones. But just a comment. I don't disagree that a little bit of a raise is not a bad idea, and a little bit more staff. But we also know that the city financially is pretty well strapped. I don't know if you looked into income to the cities, how much tax abatement. I mean, I look at the county council, what they get paid, and they represent a whole lot more people. And that was the big thing when they sold this, that, well, the county council has, they represent all these gazillion people and they only get like $12,000 a year. So, I mean, I know that's not popular to say this, but this is what was sold to everyone, that this was going to be a big money savings, that the population that the aldermen used to represent way more people than they do now. And now they're going to represent, about what they represented back in the day. I mean, I'm just, so I'm just saying, I know we haven't come up with a salary or anything, but I'm just putting that out there as we think about what these things should be and what the staff should be, and what
what we're doing here is researching this.
Right. No, I understand.
We're going to hand all this research over to the personnel committee, because that will definitely, that's where this will end up. So yeah, what we're trying to do is just encompass the whole, package of what's going on here.
I know, I understand. I'm not saying I'm not arguing any of this. I think the research is great. I'm just saying, that's all. I'm just throwing in my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you for your 2 cents.
Thank you.
All right. Alderman Coder, questions or observations?
No questions. I appreciate Alderwoman Navarro and Martin and Davis looking into this. It's very curious to see what other cities are doing. And I'm gonna, in light of the Alderman from the 23rd's comments, I'm gonna take a look. I don't remember. I mean, I remember the 2012 campaign a little bit. I thought it was more, the purpose of that campaign was more about the change in the city population and its representative needs more so than a money saver. But I don't remember. I actually am gonna lean on my predecessor, who I know is very involved in that campaign, and see if I can pull up any of the old materials. But looking forward to continuing this discussion.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to compliment again, give kudos to the committee that the hard work that they have done. And now they are showing the community this is not a quick fix situation. And I don't think people that are constantly saying what we could or should be doing don't realize the work that's involved in being an alderperson. And so literally we are like micromanaging people. We're trying to educate people. And so like everybody's saying, it's full time. I just told a group the other day, I work an average of 70 hours a week because between in the wards, putting out fires, trying to help people, it's a big job. And so it's not just being a legislator and you passing bills. It's more to that than what they think it is. So but I know that we have a lot of work involved, and I applaud the senior alder people because they have been hanging in here for so long. And so they're like scratching their head like this is a big pill to swallow. So I compliment you all, and I look forward to us doing more good work to make this a good transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Muhammad, are you with us?
I am. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chairman. I just have a couple of questions, and thank you, Alderwoman Navarro, for that presentation. As we talk about, I guess, restructuring staff for the Board of Aldermen and incorporating staffers for individual aldermen, have we also looked at the possibility of creating committee staffs for the committees that do so much more legislative work than others, like HUDs or Ways and Means and even public safety? I'm not sure if other cities have, committee staff, but is that something that we should be looking at too, you think, or do you think just staff in the Board of Aldermen appropriately will be good enough?
I think those are great questions. What we did was just look at the positions at different, different municipal legislative bodies. I think it would, looking at exactly who, some of those legislative and policy analysts, do they report to a committee or do they report to a particular alderperson? I think would be another step of research. And we didn't go too far into that because we know that we're going to have to evaluate what our committee structure looks like, most likely, just given the number of committees we have and the number of alderpersons that will be on the board. So we didn't go too far into that yet. And that may be a next step. When we're going to have some time. We've got all next year as well to dive into that. But I think that's extremely important to have some subject matter experts to serve committees. I think would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alderwoman. That was my only question. Thank you for the presentation. Very insightful.
All right. Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Oldenburg.
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything right now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll go to Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ladies, for the presentation. That was awesome, but I have no comments right now.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions, thank you.
All right. No, thank you, Alderwoman Navarro, Davis, and Martin. It was very good. And again, what we're trying to do is set up, as Alderwoman Navarro said, all next year's discussion, because we have no idea what we're, and to the public, there are 28 of us, so there aren't going to be 14 of us, might not be 14 of us who are here now. What we're trying to do is set this up so people will want to become aldermen in the future and show something that's going to to continue on. We've seen what has happened in the past. Population has been very high and has dipped very low, and the job has changed. Times have changed, and trying to get people interested in doing this is part of this. We're not trying to pad our own salaries or do things here, but we're trying to create a package that will make people want to run for these offices, as we are not all going to be here all of our lives. So we're trying to set this up to run a better government in the future. So with that, I thank everyone for that. Alderman Boy, you were going over neighborhoods. You got the list of neighborhood organizations and things. I believe we're pretty much set on that. Sir, are you still with us? I'm looking at his picture, but I can't see him. All right, we'll come back to that. President Reed, have you joined us yet? He said he'd be here about 11:30 or so.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there we are. Okay, we will now turn this over to you, sir. We've had our personnel discussion, which you can catch on the rewind. But if you would care to take over, if you have your staff, and we'll go over the rough draft is my, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. First, I want to just thank everyone that spent so much time. Tell you what, I can't be more pleased and the involvement from the various different aldermen and how open they've been to working through some of these very difficult changes. I mean, it has been very, for me, very, very enlightening and pleasing to see how open people have been to come to the table and say, okay, I know we need to change, and here are some recommendations. And what I'm going to share, I want to make sure I underscore again before we share it, is that this is what? Draft. This is, and the other thing that's important to note is that this is the first time, I think, in the history of City of St. Louis that we've shared a draft map, a working document, a working map prior to coming to some real finalization of the map. So let me share this screen with you and we'll go through it real quick. Can everybody?
And as we've talked about it earlier, these wards are lettered. We have no numbers assigned to any wards. So we're going A, B, C, D, E, F, so we can keep the discussion, no even, no odds at this point, just alphabetized. So please proceed.
All right, thank you. So, just to kind of walk you through a couple things. One of our biggest challenges is going to, being able to assure that we do not draw a map that will be thrown out due to gerrymandering, and that we keep, an adequate number of minority preference wards. The city is roughly 43.7%, somewhere in there, white, and 43.2 or 3% African American. So we want to make sure that we have, as closely as possible, an equivalent amount of wards, and also to preserve neighborhood boundaries as much as possible. One of the things that the chairman asked us to do, and the committee members really wanted to see if we could do, is to retain neighborhoods as much as possible. So I'm going to turn the neighborhood layer on here, and you'll see we've been able to retain neighborhood boundaries in a majority of the neighborhoods across the city, which is good. We still have some work to do because, like I said, this is a working map. This is by no means the final map. So if you look at the dark purple lines, and the Alderman from 26 will appreciate that, right? We got the dark purple lines. And then the neighborhood boundaries are represented by the blue lines. I'll turn them off so you can see. So that's just the ward boundaries. and this is the neighbor with neighborhoods. So if we zoom in on this, I'm going to turn on another layer here so that we can look at this, so you can understand some of the challenges we have moving forward. So if you look over here to the right on the legend, this shows you the polarity of the wards that are current census block or the census areas overlaid by the wards and the neighborhood layers of the various different areas. So the darker pink is roughly greater than 90% African American, and so on and so forth. When you get down to the grays down here, you know, the darker gray is 90% or more white population. And then you have Hawaiian, American Indian, Hispanic, and Asian represented by those colors. So we've been able to rough in where we have 7 minority preference wards and 7 non-minority preference wards. And moving down through the city, I'm going to turn off the neighborhood boundary so you can see it a little bit clearer, and then we'll zoom in so that you can see some of the things we need to achieve. So some of the minority preference wards obviously are A, B, C, and then E. You can see when we come down through the Central West End here on E, we were able to pick up a ward E, and then here D down in Midtown, the Midtown area. And this ward H is one that we were able to zoom this in so we can see. We were able to assemble, and when we overlay the neighborhood boundaries in that, you can see what it does. It picks up, Botanical Heights neighborhood, all of Botanical Heights neighborhood, all of Tiffany neighborhood, all of the Gate District, all of Compton Heights, Fox Park, Benton Park West, and Gravois Park neighborhoods, all within this district. And if you look at H over here, so under District H, District H is 33.05% white, 52.27% African American. So that's a good, solid district. It does not break up populations. It, for the most part, we're able to keep these neighborhoods together, minus this little piece here in Tower Grove East that we need to meet our variance number, deviation number, and also to assure that we have adequate population. Part of what we will be working on when you come down here to the Dutchtown area, Dutchtown and also Bevo Mill, very, very heavily densely populated areas, right? And in Dutchtown, you have a lot of minority population down in Dutchtown and Mount Pleasant. You can tell by the colors of the map. And over here in Bevo Mill, this area over in Bevo Mill, very highly populated area, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 residents or something like that in all of Bevo Mill. And then very heavily populated areas down in Dutchtown. So the way if you look at the deviations, you can see part of what we're going to be working on this week is down here in this Dutchtown area, and over here in the I'll just call this District M. So District M right now is at 13.25%. We want to get these all down to roughly 5%, and District L is at 25.25%. So you can see we're going to be moving some population off of that district. and doing it in a way where that population can backfill populate G, right? This Ward G. But part of what we need is a little more detailed conversations about what's going on in these neighborhoods to understand, where that cut should be, so that we can move some of that population off to, a neighboring ward, while at the same time doing it in a way that allows the neighborhood, to continue doing the work that they're doing, and to assure that there's been plenty of conversation between the alder people, committee members, and the community at large within these neighborhoods, within this Dutchtown neighborhood, down through Marine Villa and Mount Pleasant. See what else we got here. A lot of this area down through here, like this industrial, there's some industrial area down through that Midtown area, that has virtually no population, but then you'll hit, like in here, you'll hit 430 and so on and so forth when you hit some of the loft buildings that have a higher concentration of population. So part of what we will also look at is, some of the, tenant associations and things like that beyond the neighborhood, beyond just like the downtown neighborhood association, to see if there are any things that we should take into account as we're finishing up this area down through here in Midtown. But as you can see, we were able to keep a lot of that intact through this map as it currently sits. There's roughly about 6,000 people between all the various different wards that we need to shift around and reallocate from one neighborhood to, or one area that's that encompasses that entire neighborhood to a neighboring ward, to have the entire map balanced within the plus or minus 5% variance. So I'm happy about all of the progress we've made. We made some great progress through putting it together. But again, I have to just give all kudos out to all of the various different aldermen. They were just really engaged and came to the table with some solid ideas and ready to work through whatever we needed to work through to get to a solid map. So let me turn this off. Give you one more. Census block is off. Be easier to look at. And right now, that's kind of where we're at. So after we finish the meeting, I'm headed to City Hall to get this draft map exported so that we can upload it. There are various different reports that we will run on this map also that'll give you all of the breakdown, the number of people per district, the racial breakdown, how it doesn't meet the our variance of plus or minus 5%, and all those things. So we're going to have that report ready in a PDF format so we can ship it out to all the various different alder people. We have meetings, some meetings scheduled still for later today to meet and talk with a couple of aldermen that were out of town this weekend. We were also able to have conversations with, I believe, all but 3 aldermen. So we're still reaching out to them, and hopefully we'll have those conversations in the next day or so. But again, for the aldermen that weighed in on this, it's a lot of work. And as you can see, it's a lot more difficult than people would think to keep all of these neighborhoods intact while meeting all of the various different state and federal guidelines that we have to meet to have a map that's compliant and a map that's lawful. So we're working on all of that. But we're at a really good place with a good solid draft map to begin work on. So now the work begins. Let me turn off this and let me get another idea. So now work begins. And you know, I'm also happy with the compactness of the wards. You know, some of them, if you look at like Ward A, right, all along the riverfront, there's nothing you can do about that because this is all vacant, mainly vacant industrial land and stuff down through Hall Street and places like that. But you come through there and then you catch the population in the neighborhoods like down through here and so on and so forth to create a ward. So you know, even that ward, which is, you know, has always been the largest ward in the city of St. Louis, land-wise, it still will be the largest ward in the city of St. Louis. But again, a lot of industrial type land all the way along, you know, the riverfront here, which is adds to the difficulty to get in terms of being able to have it totally compact, but it is compact considering that it takes in those populations along the way to come up with a workable ward, you know, a ward that is right in the variance, 0.83%, which is perfect.
Okay. All right, thank you. And yeah, again, what we're doing here has never been done, and then we're not trying to pat ourselves on the back. It's just that this is the way the world has gone. We can now, you know, share this with the public, which we'll be having meetings the next 2 evenings for our public input. That's why we have the map before them, and we'll do that. We will have a meeting on Thursday, I believe. So as of today, you will have met with all 28 members, Mr. President, is what you're saying?
I'm hoping so. There are 3 aldermen that we're still working out of, you know, reaching out to. I received a text from one alderperson yesterday when I was in the funeral of my friend. So I'm going to be calling that person today.
Okay.
And hopefully by the end of the day, I believe we will have talked to every single alderperson.
All right. So I have, and by our next committee hearing Thursday, I'm guaranteed that all 28 members have weighed in. And I'm sure that if they haven't weighed in, they've seen this now, they'll want to get hold of you quicker. But
yeah. And the other thing I want to just make sure to underscore to people, one more time, this is a draft. This is meant to be a working document. This gives us an opportunity to do that work out in the public so that the public sees kind of, you know, iterations of this as we continue to refine it. They'll see where we started, the next step, and next step as we make these refinements. So we will probably have a more refined map at the next meeting on Thursday. So when we have that, we can present that also. And that refinement will come from all of the input that we'll get from residents, the input from all the people. Anybody at the Board of Aldermen that wishes to be involved will have an opportunity to be involved. The only way they won't be involved in terms of putting input in is if they decide not to put input in along.
all right. Okay, I thank you. With this will be going on. I'm guessing we can put the word rough draft or draft across
Yes, stamped all the way across the top.
The Alderwoman from the 17th had a request about, say, maybe having a enlarged printout available of this, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if that's, I don't know if we, you know, if we need to go through the committee or not with questions or comments, because most of us have on the committee have had our questions and comments towards this rough draft. We've covered most of that in personnel. If there's anyone who wants to raise their hand, please do so. Are we done with the screen share? We can take that down.
Okay. All right. Boom. There we go.
All right. I see no hands raised, because we've all seen the map pretty much. So we're pretty familiar with it. But we will then move on we have a meeting, like I say, for public comment the next 2 evenings. Then we'll have our meeting on Thursday at 11 a.m. With that, I see no hands raised. I will excuse the absent alderman for necessary absence. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn today.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. And we have the ayes have it. Everyone's in favor, please say aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned. See you all tomorrow evening. Hopefully if I can make it. If not, Chairman, Vice Chair Boyd will handle tomorrow evening.